Tell me a story. Something we've all said or heard in our lives. Stories bring us together around the campfire. Storytelling has earned its place as the most important tradition humans possess. The most important reason for this being that every story contains a lesson. Lessons to love, to forgive, to be just, and to strive for better than we have. They empower us, they lead us, they comfort us. Born in Alberta, raised in the backcountry, fishing, hunting, nature, the wild, all run thick in my blood. Growing up a Canadian boy, I had a similar dream to most other boys my age here, to make the NHL. When that dream was yanked from beneath my feet, how could I carry on? My story is full of hope, inspiration, joy, heartbreak, heartache, and resiliency. My name is Dana Lattery. I'm a fly fishing guide in southern Alberta, an ex-professional hockey player, and a storyteller at heart. Having spent the past decade guiding thousands of fly fishermen from all over the world, I've heard so many stories that paralleled mine. Stories of pain, brokenness, tragedy, from all different walks of life. The more time I spend with them, the more I realized that we all shared one common thread. Fly fishing saved our lives. Grab your favorite drink and join me on this journey as our story begins. All right, it's been a hot minute.
It's been a bit there, Dana. We've been trying to do this sit down for
a very long time. And but we're here, and I'm here with a friend, a guest, Mr. Mike Ritsco.
Yes.
Do people put their hands together?
No.
Do they? I need you to roll your window down and scream how excited you are. It's been 2 years and then some, I think, since I've recorded an episode. And it's probably been over a year since we've been trying to sit down and make this work. And so, yeah, I'm super excited to have you here in the studio, the new studio.
The new studio's nice.
In person.
Yeah, the new studio's, it's good.
Yeah, so I'm going to, as always, put you on the spot with some questions to break the ice as we move forward into telling your story. And more so, we're just going to have a very candid conversation. So I have not sat down with Mike beforehand and asked him questions. I do know him. He is a great friend, but we haven't gone into the backstories, the things that we're going to talk about today, because I, like you guys, am hearing Mike's story for the first time. Truth?
Yeah.
Truthfully?
Yes, very truth, yeah. Yeah, we met, I signed up for guide school. That was a really good experience. I really enjoyed that time, and I wish I could do it every year.
Well, you can.
But,
some people have
I got to
asked.
make room for new people. Like
Yeah.
everyone should give that a go, even if you have no ambitions to be a guide. Guide school with Dana is a awesome experience.
And you were not paid. We do not have to say that was a paid.
No, I didn't even get a sticker for that.
Yeah. Well, I got some stickers here if you want to say more. So, to start the story, Mike, tell everybody how old you are.
47.
47. So now we can kind of paint the picture of Mike Ritsco.
Yeah.
Mike's 47. He's a strapping, fit young man who, I think my first interaction with you was when you emailed us trying to change the size of your sun shirt.
Probably.
From a bigger one to a smaller one, because you had been on a bit of a journey to get fit.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so that journey led you to do what?
Uh, One day
Run.
you have
Run.
an not running was later, but yeah, initially it was like I had an idea in my head as to how much I weighed and how fit I was. And then I was at a friend's place waiting for him. We were on our way to work, and he had a bathroom scale sitting there, and I stepped on it, and I thought, "Oh man, your scale's broken." I didn't break. I was like, "What?" And then I stepped off, stepped back on, and I'm like, "Oh my god, just how fat have I gotten?"
Is that a number you want to share?
I had gotten up. I was in the well over 250,
Really?
and yeah, and that was, and then I had to, you stand there and look at yourself and go, "Oh my God, what has happened to me?" Through, you put on a few pounds every year in your 30s. You don't see it,
Yeah.
but you feel it. Your back tells you it's there.
Yeah.
You know it's there, and you're in denial. And then when you can either lean into that and find a way to adapt your life to deal with that much extra body material that you don't need, that isn't helping, or you go the other way and you're like, okay, well, I gotta figure out how to fix this, and hop on a keto diet and research that a bit and find out what it takes to change. And then in a short amount of time, all of a sudden your back pain goes away, your knees are feeling better, your ankles are feeling better.
Yeah.
And I always kind of rewarded myself with one bad meal a week, and I would order a pizza.
Yeah.
And I was riding the bus home from work. I'd ordered my pizza online, and the bus was delayed in traffic. And I'm getting a message from the pizza delivery guy that he's here and he's waiting for me on my driveway, and I'm still not even off the bus yet. So I ran from the bus to the house. I was so excited to eat that pizza, and I didn't notice right away that how good it felt to run.
How fast you were to get to the house.
I was like, oh, I wanted that pizza. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute, that felt good. And the next day, I measured out, Google mapped out a kilometer run, and I went and did it. And I'm going to say that was the hardest kilometer run I've done since.
Yeah.
It was so hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I did it again the next day, and it felt better. And then a 5K, and then started a friend at the gym where I was, I started to go and doing some workouts, and a friend said he'd signed up for some races, and my competitive nature said, I'm going to do that too. I signed up for some shorter races initially, and then signed up for half marathons. And just this last summer, I did my first full marathon. And it's an amazing thing to put yourself through, because 5 years ago, it would have been as likely as me going to the moon as to run a marathon.
What do you think you're weighing in at now?
I'm just under 200 now. I was down to 170, and I dropped weight before a race, but I feel good at 200.
Yeah, it looks healthy and inspirational. And the reason I wanted to kind of talk about that is I didn't know that exact journey. I just remember the email I got about your sun shirt saying we're gonna have to drop a size because I've been getting smaller.
That's part of the weight loss journey, is like you go and buy a whole new set of clothes, and you're like, wait, I'm not done yet.
Yeah,
and then all those clothes are going to
yeah, and it's very important to kind of, as we paint the picture of who you are, as we get into talking about fly fishing and stuff, but as we get 44 years old myself, and an ex-professional athlete who your life was just centered around being in shape and not being, overweight's one thing, but unhealthy overweight is another thing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as we continue this journey of life, how often we are reminded about our physical health and the pain that comes with, like you said, your back, your knees, and all of these things. Mm-hmm. I think often negated in that is kind of the mental health, because the back doesn't hurt and the knees don't hurt. But it's kind of more of a slow burn, and the process to which we often don't have a fix, like, oh, we're just going to go on a keto diet. And there's often not a lot of resources out there to help us, go from that person who can't move to this person who's now running marathons and signed me up for one this year, to be determined. It scared me. That would Yeah, because I don't want to let you down. I know, like you said to me in that conversation, you're competitive. I believe in you. You'll do it. And I'm like, well, that challenge is, I know. I now have
100%.
a challenge.
And for me, like after I finished the last marathon last summer in Fort McMurray, which was an emotional one for several reasons, I lost focus and I started putting weight back on. And I was not happy with that.
Yeah.
I didn't run for 2 months. I didn't exercise much. I didn't stretch. I wasn't looking. I could see myself not looking after myself, and then I needed something, another focus, another goal. And it's just, I don't need to do a race every month, but one a year is it's a goal that keeps you gives you a target.
Yeah, we say you need those lighthouses, not because you don't know where you're going, but because when it gets foggy and stormy, you do need to know. You need something to look forward to, and that's, I guess, to parlay it kindly, that is fly fishing season. And around here, we don't have 12 months of fly fishing. We get 2 to 3 ish, right?
2 to 3 are really good, and the rest sometimes you're just practicing your casting.
You make it work.
Yeah.
Practicing taking ice off. So, having said that, share with us how you were introduced to fly fishing and what drew you into the sport or the hobby, whatever you define it as.
So I'll start from being born in Claresholm, and there's some very good fishing around Claresholm. My dad was a spin cast guy who owned fly fishing gear, if that makes sense. I don't know, prior to the trip he did with me, of him ever actually getting a fish to the net with a fly rod. Oh. Although he owned fly fishing gear since before I was born, and he still does now. But I think he's still on his first leader. He hasn't replaced that yet.
Which means,
it's not much.
He's either really good or he just hasn't used it.
Yeah, it's really short now.
Yeah.
It's full of knots. But yeah, I know my dad was awesome. And like he would really focus on something and then get redirected and focus on something else. If he would focus on hunting, then he would be the most dedicated hunter that year. Mm-hmm. And then next year he wanted to do archery, and then he would be the most dedicated archer. And then it would be something else, and he would bounce from topic to topic, whether it was golf or something else, and not really stay with anything for a long term. But fishing, spin cast fishing, was something my dad is always really focused on, really dove deep into it. So I remember him buying materials and making his own spoons because he wanted them a certain way. He'd buy materials and make his own inline spinners because he wanted them in a certain pattern and staggered. And then I remember us going to, I would have been a little kid, but Frenchie and Bartow's was.
No, yeah, Frenchie's down.
It was down, it was on where the elbow meets the bow. It was down in that old brick building. And we went down there, and my dad bought he bought his second fly rod. And the only, he
just didn't get a leader with it.
It's like, and it's still set up as how he left Frenchie and Bartow's.
Really?
It is still the same fly line, same leader. It's trimmed right down to nothing. He bought waders. He bought fly tying kit and some materials because he thought when he dove into something, he went in 100%. Full depth.
Do you find that's a characteristic that you portray?
Oh, man, I try not to.
Because I relate to that way too much.
Oh, yeah. I very much do. But then I find there's times that I absolutely can't dive into something because I know I just can't be.
You don't have enough space.
I can't. Yeah, I can't. Just my main hobby is collecting new hobbies. And then I've got so much stuff around the house that I would love to be retired and able to use. But
I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate because
I think so.
I find that the fly fishing aspect of the people who are into fly fishing tend to be more of those addictive personalities.
Yeah.
Because it's a very addictive sport and it has a lot of different facets to it, which probably scared your dad away from getting into it. Because the hobbies within that hobby are very eccentric, and convoluted, and we probably would have lost all his other hobbies.
Yeah, it's
to
hard.
really get into fly fishing.
I truly feel you can't be a golfer and a fly fisherman and do both at a high level.
No,
No,
you
just
yeah, it's interesting because I golfed a lot
Mhm.
playing hockey. That's what we did, and then as I started to really fly fish, like spend more of the time, golfing just
Mhm.
gone.
Yeah.
And I have not everybody has the same feelings, but I
Yeah.
just have no desire to, if I got a day, well, now it's a job, but still the same thing. If I'm going to go sit on a field for 4 hours or like a course, I'm going to go sit on a river for 4 hours.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I own golf clubs, but they haven't left the basement in years, and
Yeah.
it was something I dabbled in and didn't do well, and
Yeah.
then it was no. It was just something to hang out with people more than
Yeah.
to actually be a golfer.
And I think fishing's, for me, I get a lot of joy out of, sharing the river with people, sharing time on the river with people, whether it's in the drift boat or walking. The drift boat's very social for me.
Yeah.
Very much like golf. So your dad does this. He buys 2 fly rods and 1 leader.
Yeah.
And now what makes Mike more curious?
Well, yeah, I guess going back to Claire's home. So I had a brother, and our dad would take us fishing, probably Chain Lakes, Clear Lake, occasionally like some of the creeks in the area. But that was my brother never caught I don't recall my brother ever catching a fish, and so he was never bitten by the fishing bug or
the tug. The tug was never the drug.
No, so he was. I caught fish. I had some early success, which really hauled me into it, really, and I really got me into it. And I enjoyed spending the time with my dad too,
Yeah.
because there's only so much of that in your life, right? But
Time is
yeah,
time goes.
yeah,
And I think as you get into our age, not everybody, there's a different time at which people realize this, but you start. I've posted it a couple times in the past few weeks, but it was like you never realized the last time you went outside with your buddies and played. You never realized the last time you did stuff. And at one point, you're not almost going to remember the last time you hung out with your dad, your mom, some of your friends. And I think that stuff starts to hit you when, our age, we're starting to see, I feel it's weirdly a lot more people are moving on. And that time bit is just like really hitting hard.
Oh yeah, yeah. A few older friends who have passed away, and some that you see that their time on the water is, it's not a lot.
Yeah, and so to cherish that time, with our friends and your dad, and I think that's all it is.
Yeah,
and the fish are a bonus, and I say it all the time. But it's the time we get to spend, and it's such a fantastic place to spend time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like time kind of stands still when you're out there, so it's like you're cheating time when you get to go there.
Yeah.
So as you get into fly fishing, you get your successes.
Well, at that time, in Claire's home, I was still spin casting and just enjoying the time with my dad, and then we would go wander around the trees and never shoot anything while we were hunting. And
normal.
Yeah. And that's probably because I was there and probably just dragging my feet and making noise. But yeah, then at one point there, my dad got relocated to Calgary. So we moved to Calgary, and the place that my parents picked for us to live was like Linview Ridge in those condos.
Yeah.
And out of my bedroom window, the Bow River. And that was very pivotal for me, for sure.
Did you get where like people out fishing on it? Like, I mean, there's a time when the bow wasn't very popular for fishing.
Yeah, at that time. So some of the other kids, you meet the other kids in the neighborhood. I would have, I was young, I was 10 years old sort of thing. A lot of times my dad was adjusting to the new life, and he wasn't really meant for city life, I think, really. My mom's great. My mom, she can adapt to anything really well. They were both, my mom was a farm kid who didn't like being on the farm. And my dad was a small town kid who probably should just, he would have been happier in a small town where he knows everybody.
Yeah. And Claresholm is what?
Claresholm, yeah, it's
1,200 people?
something like
a bit bigger,
that. But
maybe?
yeah, it's like 2 stoplights and
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a great town. But yeah, now we're in Calgary, and my dad's not doing great with the, work's tough. Bills are much higher. Everything's more expensive. But, that's, my parents are not getting along great. My brother really enjoys fighting people.
Yeah.
And I'm with, I met some other kids, and we enjoyed fishing. Like, we would go to the Bow River and go fishing.
Yeah.
Or we'd race bikes. Bikes and fishing was kind of my youth, and it still is now. I haven't really grown up that way.
You'll never grow up.
No, I mean, you've seen my bike last summer.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that thing's built for going on fishing trips. But yeah, like we would ride our bikes and we would fish the Bow. And in that time, we ran into a couple of fellas who, there was Barry White was there and Jim McClellan. We ran into both of them. We fished the same waters with them with our spinning gear, and we noticed what they were doing worked better and looked more fun.
You just didn't quite understand the level at which they were at.
No, yeah, they were. It was something else. But like Jim McClellan, like he saw a couple kids on bikes with spinning rods, and he took 10 minutes of his time to just only talk to us. We weren't going to be, clients of his or nothing. Like, we were 10-year-old kids on bikes, whatever. But he's like, here's what I'm doing, and here's why I'm doing it, and here's why I think the fish are there. And if you, and that I really stuck with me. And then we had paper route and stuff, and I bought my own fly rod when I was probably 12.
Yep.
And my dad handed me the fly tying materials, but he didn't didn't let me touch his rod or nothing, because this was his rod forever.
Yeah, he was not gonna lose the leader on that one.
Yeah, and I read my dad had picked up quite a few books. Like Country Pleasures was a fantastic place for information at the time, and my dad had bought some books from Country Pleasures, and I had read those books several times through. I had learned the bugs, names, and I knew what I was kind of hoping to try and accomplish.
You were semi-professional now.
I was
you knew all the
book
bugs
literate.
names.
I was bug literate, and I would go down there, and I was so shocked when I actually found them.
Yeah.
And they were actually doing what the book said they should be doing. And to say that I had early success with fly fishing would be a lie. But now I'm down there splashing away in the water, like flogging away, getting overexcited.
Yeah.
But I went to those little Carbon Park ponds that are stocked with eager fish, and all of a sudden, now I got something on the line. And then I go to the Bow and then nothing. I can go back to these little ponds, do reasonably well, back to the Bow, catch nothing.
Yeah.
And then some time goes by, and then all you're doing is you're learning to cast, you're learning to tie knots quick, you're learning to do some things. But I'm still just a kid.
Yeah.
Just a kid on a bike trying to figure this out, and then finally get a fish on the Bow, and that's just, I can still remember that out of, it would be a wet swing of a dry fly, a drowned dry fly swing.
With a red wire worm underneath.
No, the wire worm probably come a little later on, for sure, but no, that hadn't really, the internet was far from
being the internet.
As far as information, you're very limited to what you can figure out yourself and what you hear in the fly shops.
Could you imagine if we could go back? Hey, you can never go back because time is time.
Yeah.
But if we could, just to think about the pureness of learning the art of fly fishing, and it came from, and just like a side topic, it's super frustrating when people always message like, "Hey, I'm going to the Bow tomorrow. What should I use?" And it's fine, and it's not an arrogance thing on my part, but it's like, why not go be the 12-year-old on a bike and figure it? Like, that's the joy, is what you just told. That whole story is the joy of fly fishing, and not me handing you 3 flies to use tomorrow. Yeah, and you catch 3 fish.
Tell me where to go, what to use.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it's where it's going. It's never going to change, and it is what it is. But yeah, how cool to just hear the pureness of what was. So you get into fly fishing as you move through life, and
yeah, and it comes and goes as a focus throughout life. Like you can't, But yeah, it was that was my escape. Like home life, my parents weren't getting along great. My brother enjoyed fighting. He didn't fight anyone that he thought he could win against. He wanted to fight people that he was pretty sure would probably win, or at least two at a time.
it's up for the challenge.
Yeah. And this is, like we're not old people, we're getting into our teens. And then in junior high, there was a wrestling program at the junior high we went to, which was Sherwood. And my brother really leaned into the wrestling program there because, like, oh man, now people will watch. I'll win medals, and he did really well in the wrestling program. And then a lot of the young fellows in that wrestling program were very good friends. Like they all became a very tight bunch. There's a problem though, is that unfortunately, a lot of the young folks in that little group there were having a lot of issues, and suicide was, it started to be like, wow, that seems strange that so many young fellas are either killing themselves or trying to kill themselves.
Out of the wrestling group?
And initially, because you didn't really notice that it was just that group, but as it progresses on, it becomes that. I'm just trying to spend time with my brother. I also signed up for that little thing there, and my brother was like, you probably don't want to. I did it a little bit, and my brother's like, you really don't want to do this.
What little thing did you sign?
Just for the signing up with the wrestling program at that school. Yeah. And because my brother was older than me, he was 1 year ahead. And you notice that none of those guys, and my brother was not the same person. He was more violent. He was more prone to seeking out another fight. More prone to finding the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
He got into, I wouldn't say drugs were a thing. It was not something that he was interested in. He was never interested in drinking. But doing extremely dangerous things on a bicycle or a motorcycle became like just completely hazardous, jumping over the most insane stuff.
Yeah.
You come up short, you're not going to live or, not going to not go to the hospital. And and then also seeking out people to fight and then he got into, like, part of growing up, there was guns were always around, like rifles for shooting gophers and stuff like that. But my brother was able to do some gunsmithing on, and stolen guns were starting to appear. My brother was selling stuff that stuff was getting stolen and then delivered to our house from sketchy people.
Huh.
And my brother was moving this stuff through, and he always seemed to have a lot of money, and he always seemed to have firearms that weren't legal. It was a weird thing to be around, but being the little brother, you weren't really aware.
Weren't sure how it was all fitting together.
Well, this is just what's going on now. This is just part of life, and you kind of accept it. And a lot of my brother's friends weren't great people, but they were people that, that I knew, and you saw the side of them that was acceptable, even though you knew they did things that maybe wasn't acceptable.
Yeah.
But parents aren't getting along. Dad's moved out of the house. Parents are working towards divorce. My dad had a place not too far away from my mom's place where my brother and I could go and visit him. Mm-hmm. And we made a habit of going there fairly often to go and see him. We popped over there, nobody around. Someone else who's living in that house said, "Oh no, your dad moved, I don't know." And we would he kind of stayed away from the family for a long time, really. He just kind of, you'd make arrangements to see him on your birthday and he wouldn't show up.
Yeah.
You'd make arrangements at Christmas and no. To the point now where I'm sure he doesn't know when my birthday is. And I don't make a big deal out of it because we've never made a big deal out of his. So I would have to ask,
Yeah.
we don't do birthdays. We don't do much for Christmas. Maybe, we do a gift card handover at at Tim Hortons, and that's our level of interaction even right till now. But you wish it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
But it is.
So how old are you going through this?
I'd say Dad left the house at 14. My brother's illegal behavior really started ramping up that time. I'm not going to say it's because of my dad leaving or anything like that. That was all his choice.
Yeah.
Police are showing up. There's court cases on the go. There's always bad stuff happening.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's clear enough, but it's really as much as I want to get into.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, for a while there, you knew that this couldn't go on. You knew that
it wouldn't end well.
Yeah, because and you're always hearing about another kid who's passed away, you don't really put together that he was on the wrestling program. And you could see my brother's behavior is really not long-term beneficial.
Yeah.
But, then I leaned into fly fishing a lot at that time because it was the escape from the toxic household.
Yeah.
It was the escape from, it's something you can focus on to get your mind off of how, you're a kid, you can't really move out on your own. You can't leave. You can't find
you're a kid.
Yeah. You're a kid.
All the things that you said you can't do, a kid shouldn't do.
No. And you want nothing more than just to run away.
Yeah. It's very similar in that situation is my parents split up when I was 14, and I can only look back and empathize with not knowing or comparing, but just understanding like how difficult that was for 14-year-old Dana to walk through.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy because the kids shouldn't, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens.
Yeah.
So, is there ever a point that things get different?
Yeah.
Good or bad?
Things get worse. Yeah. On the fly fishing side, things got better. I did some work for a family member he was a great uncle. He was his last days on the river they had already passed, and he was a fly fisherman, and he was a very focused, dedicated fly fisherman, and he had his antique fly rod he handed to me along with his antique fly fishing or fly tying equipment he handed to me, and I felt honored to have a cane rod, a split bamboo rod, and this old antique automatic fly reel, and I felt pretty cool having that gear on the river. It was so much nicer than my fiberglass fly rod, which oddly enough are back in style.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the cane rods are, but they're not back.
No, they've kind of hung around.
Yeah.
I've got a small collection of them now, but they're a cool thing to fish with. But yeah, I felt like the coolest kid on the river with that thing.
Yeah.
And it was something else to catch a fish with it.
Yeah.
And it was something else to actually try and land it with that antique reel was something.
Especially something on a bow.
It's like, it's like fighting a fish with a tape measure.
Just trying to retract it with a button.
Yeah. Okay. But, that really pushed me deeper into the sport and focused me more on it. I had some good influences. The people that I met on the river were good. There was a little movie came out around the time that I was at, that kind of
river runs through it.
It kind of, it increased the enthusiasm to people joining the river.
very much did.
Yeah, and I think that was a good thing right across the board for the sport, even though had to ride my bike a little farther for some quiet water.
Yeah.
But if you were, 100 feet from anywhere you could park a car, you were not seeing anyone anymore.
Yeah, and that's sort of still happens.
Absolutely.
If the YouTube didn't suggest the spot and there's not a bridge, you pretty much have the river to yourself. I don't know if that'll ever change, because I don't think people I call it the microwave society. People just want to put in a brisket in the microwave and have it done in 7 minutes.
Should be good.
Should be great.
Yeah.
But you get what you get. And honestly, the good things take time. So out of high school, did you go to college? Did you get a job? What took you into where you're at now with Syncred?
Oddly enough, you would bring that up. So a lot of bad influences in my life got me into things so I wound up with assault charge when I was quite young. And my lawyer kind of suggested this will look better when you go to court if you actually have a job. And I was 14. So I got a job in a welding shop, and they were willing to hire me on and pay me better money than anything else is really going to pay a 14-year-old kid to do.
Yeah.
And they were quite willing to let you learn. Like, they were really good at teaching you. So all of it. So there I am. I'm in my mid-teens, and I have a really good job. I'm still in school. I'm finishing school, and I'm fly fishing a lot, and I can buy a little better gear. I have a truck. I can go places. I can explore. And I had a truck long before I had a driver's license, oddly enough, if that makes any sense.
Well, maybe back then it did.
Yeah. And my brother was, he was having troubles through high school, and finishing off grade 12. I was, it was around just after Christmas, and he had made a shotgun, and he had made his own slug. And 1993, he aimed it at himself. And blew a big hole through our world. It's hard to imagine where he would have ended up in life. I don't, at the time, I hate to say it, but the path he was on wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that he would have been able to focus on something positive.
Hmm.
But what came out after that was that wrestling coach they had. He was a pedophile. He liked boys.
Hmm.
He was scrambling the minds of all these young fellas just entering puberty, and all these young boys' first sexual encounter was being raped by a professional wrestler.
Hmm.
If you can imagine the violence that would go along with that, you're trying to figure out your place in life.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you aren't in a good spot to start. And then you got to try and move forward with the shame of that. And the shame of, well, how do I fit into this world?
While trying to keep a persona of being tough.
Absolutely. You were, you were manhandled. You were beaten up and forced by a guy who's a predator.
And a coach who held your...
in a position of trust.
Mm-hmm.
That coach, a bunch of the fellas got together and they beat him to what they thought was dead. And he's still alive, I guess. I don't know. At one point, I got upset about it and I tried to find him, but it wasn't to be found. Maybe cut that part out. But it's the truth. You know, and so some of the fellas who are still alive from that little group have done really well. And some are still floundering and still haven't got life started because of how that
it just destroys
destroyed them. Yeah,
so hard, and it's happening. It's happening so often, and it just aids in the conversation of how do you talk, like, who do you talk to?
Yeah.
We talked about like the physical health and understanding.
Yeah.
It's on the outside. It's like, hey, Mike, you're 250 pounds. We see you're not well. But when that weight gain is in your inside, in your head.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
There's no.
So after that was January 1st. We moved into the fishing season. My mom had started dating, and she was dating a fella. And that guy, if I could track him down now, I'd love to. I'd love to go fishing with him one more time. But he took time out to spend with me, to take me fishing. He had a jet boat. He had some nicer gear than what I ever thought I could ever afford in my lifetime. And he took me out and spent the time working with my casting, working with my approach, working with how to find fish. So he would take my mom and myself out, and we would go out on multi-day camping trips on the boat. To say that was healing, it's quite an understatement.
It just takes one person to take time. We're going to keep saying that word, but somebody just took that time to spend with you. And it's like, you're sitting here.
And I was probably, because I was probably not appreciative enough at that time, and I feel bad. Like, this guy could have gone fishing with his buddies. He could have gone, fishing with anyone. Didn't have to be me. I just feel honored.
But the impact.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's I'm learning this as you're telling me the stories. And it's like, I just know you as such a compassionate, truly caring person.
Yeah.
Like, your heart is on your sleeve.
He introduced me to the wire worm, by the way.
Whoa.
He was like, you don't have to do all that.
We know. Now we know why. You want to go find him. You should always remember your first wire worm experience.
Oh, man. Yep. No. If you just need to start the day with a fish on the line, that wire worm will.
It's a secret fly. Nobody knows about it.
Yeah, it's something else. And then you can go and get complicated after that. But,
you can go tricky fly fishing.
Yeah, you can go do some real stuff now. Yeah, but yeah, sometimes But yeah, it's the
power of one person, and I mean that in metaphorically.
Yeah.
In all ways.
Yeah, there's some people are so good and some are so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, to think, and it really, like that, I had walked and waited for a bit at that point. I had a few seasons in walking and waiting, and he's like, here, have some waders. I'm like, oh, wow, this is so much better.
I don't have ground shrinkage anymore.
Yeah. It was, and it was just introduction to a whole bunch of stuff that you could find on the internet now. But to have someone actually spend 3 days with you, teaching you how to fish and introducing you to things more than what you can just read in a book.
Yeah.
But, and then there was the boat on the water and the healing of just a boat on the water on the river.
It's magical.
Is something. Yeah, I tried to count it up. I think I'm on boat 17 now currently.
Of years.
17 different boats I've owned since then.
Yeah.
currently, yeah, that hide that I have now, I really love that thing.
Yeah.
It's just, but also at the same time, I've been shopping for more.
Yeah. Well, the addiction, like we talked about,
Yeah.
you're more like your dad in that aspect than you agreed at the beginning,
Yeah.
which isn't a bad thing. It's a great thing because I find myself doing the same, and also getting another new boat in the spring. So
Yeah.
trying to pick out colors as we speak.
Yeah.
So, so now you're spending a lot of time away at work. So Calgary is a city in southern Alberta,
Mm-hmm.
and where you work is Fort McMurray, which is a city in northern Alberta. And the distance, because you're on your way up there today,
Yeah.
8-10 hours.
Yeah, if you're in a hurry, you can be there in under 8, but I'm usually not in a hurry as much as I used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how
I'm
often
about
are
8
you
hours.
up there?
I'm always trying to switch from job to job, and this was supposed to be a short job, but we're into year 7 on this short job. It's supposed to have a schedule at some point, and they've never really nailed one down, although they keep bringing that idea up to something that's more accommodating for us who are traveling in and out and to and from, because it's wearing me and my vehicles out
Yeah.
driving this. I'm usually doing this commute in and out twice a month.
And so on this trip, you went Friday back to Calgary
Yeah.
and Monday. So you do all that.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about who's in Calgary as far as what your family looks like right now.
Yeah. Right now I'm with my wife, Natalie. We have both been married before. We have 4 kids between us, but none together. And the kids get along as if they fight like they're all like blood relatives.
Like they know each
They're
other.
willing to fight to the death. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're willing to fight to the death for each other. It's not often that we're all together at the same time, but we were this weekend for about an hour. It was, it's pretty awesome. And the girls look like they're twins, but, different mother, different father. But, and, like we get, it's the family forest, not a family tree, right? It's, the wife's ex-husband, like he was there visiting. We get along fine. There's no reason to be upset about anything. My ex-wife could never come and sit with us all like that. It wouldn't work. She is not the same kind of person. Getting away from her was also something that cemented my fly fishing, because I was a hardworking guy who made good money when I was young. I wound up working a lot, and I had my own company plus worked full time to try and keep up with with life, with the bills of life and my first marriage.
Yeah.
But I ended up with I was living in a brand new home at 21 that I paying for myself. I wound up with a brand new truck and a brand new car and a brand new motorcycle and a brand new snowmobile, and no downtime. So like the little bit of time that I did spend fishing, I would go somewhere where there was no phone service so that no one could bug me for a couple of hours, and I would enjoy fly fishing. But I wasn't growing. I was just doing the same thing the same way every time. And it was an escape more than just an escape from my life, because I couldn't believe how much debt I had acquired at such a young age. And by the time I was, I guess, 24, I had a daughter, and I couldn't see eye to eye with my wife.
Yeah.
And I had to walk away from my family to just keep on living, because it was to that point where I was ready to die just to be away from it. And I'd moved out of town, my 18-foot travel trailer in a farmer's field. It was what I could handle at the time. And I was riding this, ridiculously fast motorcycle, TL 1000R. And after just having another fight with my now ex-wife, I was ready to, brought that thing up as fast as it would go, around 300, and I aimed it at a semi-truck, shut my eyes, and missed. I don't know what truck swerved or what, but pulled over, cried my eyes out, decided I'd go fishing again. I was living pretty close to McKinnon Flats and what's now called Legacy Island. It was random camping down at Legacy at that time. I went down there. I hung out for some time. Caught some fish on wire worms. Honest to God. Sometimes it's what you need, right? Bring yourself back into perspective. Life doesn't have to be so complicated.
Yeah.
And then really focus myself on how to get through the next 10 minutes, the next hour. And then just keeping on.
I think an interesting thing with fly fishing and why, and hearing stories is why it brings people back is because, like you just said, it's actually very simple. As much as in the beginning of the podcast, we talked about how intense and so many different things to learn in fly fishing. But from my experience and guiding people on the river, it's very often that at the end of the day, people say that I didn't think of anything today. It's very interesting because such in a calm, peaceful place, how can you not think about everything? Like, how is your head not going 100 miles an hour? But somehow, something on the river, it like calms the. You hearing what I'm saying? Like, it just takes away the noise, and you're so stuck in that moment.
Yeah.
Whether you're waiting for that bobber to go down or waiting for you're and I always tell people it is the last place on earth that you can actually live in the moment right now.
Yeah.
Because technology can't speed it up. Instagram can't make it go faster. If you look away, what happens? The fish ate your fly. And that's, you just, and that's hence this entire podcast is hearing your stories and what you just described to us and you going right to the river.
Yeah.
It's like you knew from the past experiences that you've lived through that this is where you needed to be.
Yeah. It was, when I found that place to put my trailer out there, it was just for the access to the water. It was because I knew, I guess, that I could go and unwind. I could go get that break. I could go down early in the morning, have a little campfire, make a pot of coffee, and not be in a rush to start.
Yeah.
And just kind of ease into the day. Then I was left with so much debt after that divorce that I wound up going through a bankruptcy. I think that was a challenge itself too, and that you can only really get away from. You need to focus outside of that. You need to, it was the challenges of that are just kind of beyond beyond what a guy at 25 and 26 should be going through. Most people, I think, I see my kids are still they're into that age now where they're 24 this year and they haven't done anything that ridiculous yet.
It's almost at the price of things you can't even.
Yeah, and the price of
living right now.
I guess it seemed comparable then too, but it's how do you move forward with life when you can't find a place to escape that's good and healthy for you?
Mm-hmm. Do you find yourself now like getting enough time on the river? Do you find yourself working too much?
I would say that when I can be on the river, like it's great. It's never going to be enough, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I have like a soft commitment at work till like the end of May, and then after that, hopefully this job is over and I can move away from it.
I feel I've heard this before.
I've said this before.
Yeah.
And hopefully I can move away from that and find something where I can still afford bills, because there's no end to those, and keep fishing more.
Fun is expensive.
Yeah. Like like how do you like, and there's some great fishing in Fort McMurray, but yeah, it's
not the same as down here.
it absolutely isn't.
Yeah.
It's not the same kind of thing. That Athabasca is quite a fishery, but only in certain places and at certain times.
Yeah. So what's your plans for fly fishing? You want to buy your 17, what are you on, 17 boats? So let's talk
Currently,
this summer, short term.
This summer, boat. I've been taking people out as a guide. I've been doing that for a few years, but not many people per year. Felt motivated to really lean into it last year. First trip out with a new fella that I had never met before, and this was just a pseudo guide day. This was just, hey, we know the fishing's going to be not great this time of year, but we just want to get out with the boat.
Yep.
And I was feeling really energetic to, take that break from work and really lean into, maybe going into guiding.
Yeah.
And a dead body bounced off the boat.
I remember that.
Yeah. And it was like, no, this is a bad omen.
It's a rarity. It's not a daily occurrence down here.
Yeah, it's part of floating through the city. There's an element in Calgary that's going to lead to that kind of thing occurring.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, bad omen. And then I still fished. I had the boat out the next 3 days in a row, and no dead bodies. Great. And fishing was spectacular, but I couldn't get that image out of my mind. I couldn't, I was, a piece of plastic floated by and it made me near jump out of my skin, So, that's another, oh no, that's just a garbage bag. Okay.
Maybe it's a garbage bag filled with a dead body.
Yeah. And had a busy summer with work in Fort McMurray, and then into the fall, everything was really awesome again. Like everything was really feeling good, but you can't start guiding in the fall. But a fella called me up, and he had some trips that he couldn't cover, and we made arrangements, and those trips all seemed to fall through.
No, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's an interesting world. Like I wouldn't want to do that and go stealing people's clients or anything. I would just want to spread the love and spread the good time on the river with people. I'm not. Yeah. Yeah. It's not something I would. I don't know. I would only. I don't know how do you put it? Like, how do you get into guiding, and how do you feel like you need to spread that love in a positive way? And
well, I think you're doing it. You've been.
I love taking people out. And
I think a lot of it in an outfitter perspective is availability, right?
Yeah.
Your job was ending, and then it wasn't, and then it is ending. So I think your intentions and your motives are all extremely pure, and it's interesting hearing your story. And I mean, you've just had every reason to be a real crappy human.
I have been at times, I think, but you catch yourself.
Yeah. And
then you go to the river and you
refresh yourself.
Yeah. You get like a restart, and then you're like, okay, I don't have to, and I've been that jerk at, who's, whatever, a delay at a store, and you're yelling at the the checkout person who has no need to put up with your garbage. And I've been that guy. And I'm so embarrassed for the things I've said and done when I wasn't in the right head space. I'd love to find all those people and apologize. But yeah, then you go to the river and you spend, like I did a 3-day float entirely by myself. And oh my God, did I feel so great after that.
Yeah.
A beloved uncle passed away, and we knew he was on, I'd gone up, saw him in the hospital, and we all knew it was his gonna, he knew he didn't have long to go, and I went and spent the time on the river. And if I had the chance to ask him, I'm sure he would have said, yeah, go there. Don't have to wait here in this hospital.
Yeah.
And he passed away while I was somewhere I got phone service down by McKinnon there, and I got the message down there, and I'm like, well, I could get the vehicle drop off changed and I could be home, but for my own selfish reasons of knowing I need more time to heal,
Yeah, you're right where you're supposed to be.
I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish the trip and do another night and make it all the way down
And let the river continue to do its thing with you.
Yeah. Yeah, when you know you're not done, you got to keep finishing that float. And I think I really like that about our trip on the river is like, well, your vehicle's here and you got to get there.
Yeah.
And you're not done until you get there.
Yeah. It's like climbing a mountain. And we've been on one together, which we've planned to do more. Obviously you're busy and we're all busy, but it's the same mentality as like when you get up there. And I remember our climb last year it's probably one of the most fun climbs that I've been on. And our way down, we changed which way we would go down. And that was a memorable trip. But that same thing is like when you get up, you got to get down. And also understanding on the mountain that the journey, the 99% of that trip is not at the top. That is 1% of the entire day.
You have to enjoy all of it.
Yeah.
You can hate the trip down because you know that your day is ending. It's usually when I see the car at the end of the...
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I hate this part.
Yeah. At the end of the day on the river.
I like that you do some rituals at the top and you do some rituals
at
the
red
car.
Gatorade and our cheesies, Summit cheesies.
Yeah, and it was awesome going with you guys and then knowing that how much more sharing you guys did. That wasn't something that's ever been part of any mountain trip I've done.
Yeah.
It's the mountain trips I've done as well. You're going to bring your own stuff and you're going to eat your own food and you're not sharing and you're not. Yeah. And it's something that is probably the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I'll bring a little for everyone, and that's
the people you're with.
I'm like, man, I got to do that. And I got to keep that in mind. And that goes in the, bring a little gift for everyone for the top, a little snack. Doesn't have to be something heavy, but
the cheesies, the Summit cheesies.
When I hike with my mom, she puts a rock in my pack, usually near the bottom or halfway mark, and stop for a snack. And then when you're not looking, she'll throw rocks in your bag.
got a little heavier here. What advice do you have for a beginner, somebody who's just getting into fly fishing, especially using fly fishing to aid in kind of an escape, a mental health escape?
Buy the best fly line you can afford. Doesn't have to be the best rod or the best reel, but the best fly line you can afford, because that will reduce some of that mental stress. Buy more than 1 liter.
I'm not able to mend, not able to cast.
Yeah,
and it's not sinking or floating.
Yeah, and buy more than 1 liter. Make sure try to do your whole career on 1 liter. And when you can, find whether it's if you don't know anybody already fly fishing competently and successfully, hire a guide.
Yeah,
get a guide to take you out and get some of that initial frustration with the casting out. You can't learn from a video. You can't learn from a book. You need someone to come and stand beside you and say, okay, can you feel that?
Yeah.
Now forward. Can you feel that? Can you feel that?
That's a fantastic, and not in a self-promoting or promoting guides way, but it's that frustration of many times on the river when you could just get a guide and you're years ahead of where you would be to start. Yeah.
What was awesome was later on in life when I hired I hired Barry for the day and I hired Jim McClellan for a 2-day trip, and to go and see those guys again and like, hey, remember when I was a little kid and you guys were awesome?
Yeah.
Oh, you're still awesome now. I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to get some
Yeah.
instruction.
And to learn from that of
Yeah.
what they did, it's like, be a good person on the river.
Yeah, they're both.
Because you got maybe little Mike down at the river trying to escape the crap that Mike went through, and you don't know. And that kid's down there trying to learn, and you're acting all like, well, I'm not gonna, why would I tell this kid whatever? And it's like, but what somebody did for Mike changed his course. You know, your mom's boyfriend at one time changed the course of your life just by giving you time and spending time. So I think that's a very important lesson to take out of this is you never know all interactions, but more so because this is a fly fishing podcast on the river of like who you're a big part of the healing on the river as a user of the river. And so how we interact with other people is a big part of it.
I would love it if Dave could hear this and contact.
Yeah.
I would try and do a trip with Dave on the river again. You know, my mom's old boyfriend there, and I would love to pay that back to him.
Yeah. I'd like to be there to watch that because that is a full circle story that I would love to be a part of. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share or anything else you got for people listening in?
No, don't be afraid if Dana invites you on, make the time to do this. This is really awesome. Yeah. Like if there's someone who's short on time, it's, I've got another 700 kilometers to drive today and I'm 100% making the time for this because this is going to be a memorable day. You only have so many memorable days out there, and make this trip, make this one of them. Yeah, yeah. And to be able to listen back, and I think a lot of people that have done the podcast have said that is there's a lot of healing in listening back to to the story. Yeah, and I'm so grateful for you as a friend. I know we met through guide school, but part of the TNL fam on Thursday nights and just being, I just love your demeanor and I love if you get to spend time with Mike, he's got a insanely dry sense of humor, but it's fun and I enjoy that. And I enjoy you being open and candid. And if you want us to go remove some of those things earlier, I don't think you need to, I think they're great, but yeah, I try to leave my humor out sometimes on this. It gets too much. You can't leave your humor out. No. So yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I know it. I haven't even opened up on the podcast, so I admire you for coming here and sharing, because to be vulnerable is scary, and it is. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, to describe to people what I intend to do today on my drive to work. What do you intend to do? Well, just to come here and do this podcast about fly fishing and my, how my story, my years growing up. Yeah, and there's so much I wouldn't put into. It's just, but enough that. And it's interesting because I know there's people listening. Even what I've shared here is relating to some of those stories. Yeah, it was weird. Pseudo guide school day when I rode Brent Struthers down the river, and to find out we probably knew each other. Yeah, bumped elbows. Yeah, probably in junior high or whatever around that area. We seem to have the same path. Yeah, he's wanting to come on the show. We've also been trying to connect and. Yeah, he's laid up right now. He just had his new hips. Yeah, hopefully that helps him stand up straight in the boat and take some pain away. Set the hook and not lose all the fish. Yeah. So appreciate it. And Instagram. If people want to reach out to you, I'm on Instagram. It's just my name, Mike Ritsco, which will be down in the show notes. Yeah. All right. Well, that is a
fills a 2-year gap of no recording. So I appreciate it. And if you guys are listening, the story resonates with you, it's something that you want to reach out to Mike. Although his sense of humor is dry, his willingness and his heart is not. And he is, I'm sure, willing to talk to you if you have anything that you relate to with this story, or if you just want to know how to spend a day with him on the river. I encourage you to please reach out to him. If you have a story that you want to share, and you can say fly fishing saved your life, and the word save is subjective, so however you see fit, send me a message on social media, and we'll set up a time to just tell your story like we did with Mike, because I truly believe if like 2 people have an effect through Mike sharing a story, that's the ripple effect, and that's exponential growth. So yeah, reach out if you would love to share your story, and appreciate everybody listening and spending the time to go through this entire podcast with us. And I don't know when the next one will be, but hopefully it's before 2 years. And until next time, love you guys. I love you, Mike.
Love you too, Dana.
I won't hang up early this time.
Love you all.
And we'll chat soon.